Hi 5th and 6th graders. Today I'm going to go through some samples with you of pages 14 and 15, and that's writing decimals and expanded notation. So writing in expanded notation, you take the number and multiply it by the place value. So in the example that they gave you, we're looking at 1 and 56 hundredths. So for the ones place, it's just 1 times 1. And then you add that to the 5 times 1/10. So it's just the number and then the place value that the number is in. Okay, let's look at the next one. So we have 41 and 17 hundredths. So the 4 is in the tens place. So we would write that as 4 times 10. The 1 is in the ones place. So we would write that as 1 times 10. Now we're getting into the decimals. The 1 is in the tenths place. So we would write that as 1 times 1/10. And then the 7 is in the hundredths place, so we would write that as 7 times 1/100th. Okay, so now if we're going to write out the whole thing, we have 4 times 10, and we're going to put this all in parentheses because those parentheses would tell us that we're going to do all of these first when making the number. So we have 4 times 10 plus 1 times 1, and then 1 times 1/10, and then 7 times 1/100. And I see I made a mistake up here. Can you catch it? This 1 is in the ones place, not the tens place. So I needed to put 1 times 1. Okay, let's do one more with the fraction form together. So we have 8 and 352 thousandths. So the 8 is in the ones place. So we're going to write that as 8 times 1. The 3 is in the tenths place, so we're going to write that as 3 times 1/10. And then the 5 is in the hundredths place, so we're going to write that as 5 times 1/100th. And then the 2 is in the thousandths place, so we're going to write that as 2 times 1/1000. Okay, so let's write it out as a number in expanded notation using fractions. So we would have 8 times 1, 3 times 1/10, 5 times 1/100, and 2 times 1/1000. Okay, so those are some examples of writing a number using expanded notation using fractions. So let's look at page 15 now, which is actually for tomorrow. This is writing expanded notation using decimals. So it's the same thing, except we're going to write those numbers as decimals rather than fractions. Okay. Let's look at this one and do it together. We have 25 and 13 hundredths. So the 2 is in the tens place. The 5 is in the ones place. The 1 is in the tenths place. So I'm going to make sure I get that TH at the end there. And the 3 is in the hundredths place. Again, I'm going to make sure I get the TH in there. So I would write this as 2 times 10, 5 times 1, 1 times 1/10, and then 3 times 1/100th, because this represents the place that it's in. Okay, and then when we write it out, we have 2 times 10, 5 times 1, 1 times 1/10, and 3 times 1/100th. Okay, let's do another sample here together. This is 2 and 531 thousandths. So the 2 is in the ones place. The 5 is in the tenths place. The 3 is in the hundredths place. And the 1 is in the thousandths place. So to write those out, I would have 2 times 1, 5 times 1/10, 3 times 1/100th, and 1 times 1,000th. Okay, so let's write that out in expanded notation here. 2 times 1, 5 times 1/10, and 3 times 1/100th, and 1 times 1,000th. So as you work through the rest of these papers, let me know if you have any questions.